Sure, we all have failures, and I'm certainly no stranger to this. Let me tell you about the time when I was in charge of a team of developers and we were supposed to deliver an enterprise HR software. At one point in time, because of a bug, around 50 candidates were wrongfully being reported by the software that they were intentionally trying to influence their results and their personality profiles. So basically, whenever a hiring manager would open the reports, the software would say, hey, be careful, this candidate tried to influence the results with their responses, which was actually wrong because it was just a bug. However, our customers were quite understanding of the situation, so it wasn't such a big of a deal. And furthermore, I don't believe it was my responsibility because it was our testers and my business partner who were actually supposed to triple check these things. They knew how the algorithm worked. However, this was a pretty significant failure for the software and maybe one of the final nails into its coffin. Well, I cannot really remember how many people were using it at the time, as you know, it was 9 years ago. But as for the notifications, it was not my responsibility. It was my business partner who was actually handling these things. Oh, I don't think it was something that I was tracking at the time, and or at least I cannot remember that. Sorry. Sure. One of my weaknesses is I believe that I sometimes work too hard. I remember in my previous role, I was always the last person to leave the office, and I'm not married. I have no family, no children. So this basically means that I am actually working full time, including weekends. So another weakness here would be that I have a tendency to overthink problems. Like, for example, it was just recently that my boss asked me to redesign a pop-up for our software, and I immediately got down to work and spent 24 hours straight to deliver the best possible layout. Now you see, the layout turned out to be great, but this is the type of work that you would typically deliver with the same level of quality within 1 hour. And I remember this actually had consequences over the overall performance for the rest of the week because I actually felt exhausted. You see, this is certainly a very complicated question because, to be honest with you, I do not feel comfortable talking to you about the ideas that I have for my latest startup. And you see, since I've been out of the work field, I haven't been employed for the past year, there was not much going on there. So I believe this is a too complicated of a question. I mean, do you have something else? Can you ask me something else? Sure, let me tell you about the time when my boss actually tasked me to provide with a redesign on the website, and I actually, once I did provide my redesign, he provided me another one on his taste, which, to be honest with you, it was a terrible design. It was not following any of the latest trends. I didn't really like it, but since he was my boss actually, and he directed me to proceed, I had to get the job done. But luckily, I was able to introduce some design elements from the latest trends, and he actually didn't notice these things. So we managed to release this new version of the website with the latest design features that I was considering from the beginning. Sure, I remember it was just recently that I decided to have a side project to crawl through my girlfriend's social media feed with the purpose of analyzing, to do sentiment analysis, and not only that, but to predict her mood using this data. And I gave myself 1 week to do this project. However, because of conflicting priorities, I wasn't able to invest myself 100% into the project. And while I was actually successfully able to perform sentiment analysis, I failed on the prediction side of things. And this was actually a big deal for me. And I certainly learned my lesson here that is to properly prioritize tasks in my projects. Sure, I remember it was only just recently that I was tasked to handle the release cycles of a software application with the highest possible standards. And oftentimes we had customers asking us for small features, so I had to be inventive and see the bigger picture. Not that we are not customer obsessed, but I had to often take ownership of the situation, learn and be curious and dive deep, and ensure that our feature releases would be for the long term, and I was right a lot. There was also the option to hire and develop more people, but I had to ensure I'd stay frugal, have a bias for action, and deliver results. Having backbone to disagree and sometimes commit is essential to earn trust.